Israel has been pummeling Iran because the Biden administration was providing weaponry for them to do so. So I will say, it's just amazing to me.
Plans are only pieces of paper unless they're executed.
And this
plan was executed flawlessly.
Occasionally the correct answer is just,
rolled the dice.
Good job, President Trump. Well done.
Occasionally
that's the right answer.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to yesterday's news channel, where we watch CNN so you don't have to. Scott Jennings returned to the panel on CNN's News Night with Abby Phillip on Monday, and it went exactly how you'd expect. Once again, he was the lone voice of reason in a room full of liberals desperate to rewrite the narrative around Trump's handling of the Israel-Iran conflict. They claim that Trump is being controlled by Netanyahu, that he's surrounded by incompetent fools. They even say his actions were unconstitutional. Sound familiar? Anyway, let's watch Scott Jennings obliterate the panel's establishment talking points. I mean, it doesn't take much effort, but let's go.
Significant amount? Absolutely. And is that an important part of this operation for the world and for the region? 100%.
Too early to take a victory lap?
No,
I mean,
I'll be
because
glad
at the
to
end
take
of the
one.
day, well, I know you are. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, though, the question is, how do we actually get Iran to not have a nuclear weapon? That's really where we're at.
Well, functionally, we did it, with these strikes. I mean, what he did was a courageous move. And working in concert with our special partner, Israel, we let them pummel them, take out their air defenses, and then we swoop in the way only we can with these B-2 bombers and these special massive ordnance penetrators, and we deal with the situation. So it was great tactically. Ultimately, the only way to get Iran to stop seeking a nuclear weapon, I suppose, would be if the people of Iran rose up and tossed these butchers out and got themselves a new government. I'm not suggesting that we should be involved in that, but you would hope someday that the people of Iran would decide to have, something more like a normal government where, you're not constantly trying to get nuclear weapons to bring about the end of the world, which is effectively what they're constantly trying to do. But today is a great day for America. It's a great day for Western civilization.
Scott, my problem is the Trump administration is taking a victory lap as if they're the only ones who planned this. And I understand he took the action, but this action was planned by the military for multiple administrations. You just said yourself, Israel has been pummeling Iran because the Biden administration was providing weaponry for them to do so. So I will say, it's just amazing to me.
Plans are only pieces of paper unless they're executed. And this plan was executed flawlessly.
Occasionally the correct answer is just,
rolled the dice.
Good job, President Trump. Well done.
Occasionally
that's the right answer.
But he rolled the dice. We don't know how this is going to end. Is this going to bring about peace? I'm not sure. If you want to say tonight, for sure, 100%, it's peace. I'm actually willing to kind of look at that bet, because over the course of time,
you're hoping for something else?
No, I'm not.
D's of dodgeball for everyone watching, and that is development, diplomacy, and deterrence. The Iranians do not speak the language of diplomacy unless force is used, and that is what President Trump and the United States used this past weekend in a perfection way.
It's illegal, unconstitutional.
It is not illegal
of course,
in
it's
any
violation
way, shape,
of
or form.
international
The United
law.
States
You can't violate national sovereignty of a country.
Why?
Why?
We do it all the time.
Our safety
I
and
know, because
security
America
is at
violates
risk.
international
The
law.
Iranians have
Who's gonna
killed
stop us? Who's
Americans
gonna stop
for
us?
decades,
You would think
Doctor.
morality ought to play some role.
You think
in
it's
stopping.
immoral to stop
You think
Iran
nothing-
from getting a nuclear weapon?
I think that any condition.
Who's the moral actor here, Iran or the United States?
In terms of ensuring that we don't have nuclear bombs anywhere?
No, in terms of ensuing these butchers don't have nuclear bombs that they have fully said they will use on Israel.
Well, we got a larger discussion. We've got United States, Israel.
There's no equivocation.
Hold on, Scott,
What they've done in Gaza gives neither one of them moral authority. That's a genocide. It's ethnic cleansing. Israel has no moral authority. United States has no moral authority.
Disagree.
You think that some? No, we just had deep disagreements on that. But I'd like to hear your Christian formulation.
So
on
your
this. Where does the
alternative is
cross
to
play a
allow
role?
them to develop
Where
and
does the
deploy
cross
a
play a
nuclear
role,
weapon.
my brother?
Hold on a second.
Where does the love? Where's the love for you, for Iranians, and for Palestinians and others?
We don't live in a theocracy, but they do, and their theology.
I don't defend theocracies.
Their theology is to get a nuclear weapon, destroy Israel, and destroy the great Satan, which is the United States. Our government is based on one thing: national defense. And what's in the best interest of our national defense is for these fanatics not to have a nuclear weapon where they can wipe us off the map. It has nothing to do with Christian or whatever. It has everything to do with national defense.
And you
that's
don't think
what
there's
Trump-
fanatics?
Hold on a second, Jamil, go ahead.
And look, missiles that they launched today, this symbolic, telegraphed, ineffective, intentionally ineffective campaign of sending missiles was all propaganda for a domestic audience to say, we attacked Great Satan, we took the fight to them, knowing full well that absolutely nothing was going to happen.
But Abby's right. We have such a mixed history with regime change and getting involved in these conflicts. And I think the American people voted for their president to care about them and to focus on them, which is why you're seeing so much division. Now, there are hawks in both parties, Democrats and Republicans, who are saying, now's the time, change Iran, change it forever. The question is what comes next, and I don't think we know that answer.
Well, a minute ago, you were upset that this
The
bomb
women
dropping didn't free the women
are
of
free.
Iran. I'm just trying to figure out where
you're popping champagne. Oh, Trump, I'm taking my victory lap over here, and I think it's a little premature. That's all I'm
It's a
saying.
victory lap for American
Which of us is
leadership.
popping champagne? Listen, I mean, the reality is this was a targeted strike designed to do one thing and one thing only. Stop these butchers from having a nuclear weapon, period. There's no regime change.
That's what
there's
they
no,
say
There's no
today.
what comes next.
But
what
Trump
comes
has
next
confused
is up
it.
to the people of Iran. And what comes next is whether Iran and Israel abide by the terms of a ceasefire and have a negotiated peace. I hope that they all can get to the table and do it. But it's the Middle East, and it's difficult.
And
No,
I
but
don't think
Scott, the
we
problem is
I have to make an embarrassing admission. You know, for a brief moment, I actually let these clowns at CNN make me second guess Trump. And you'd think I'd know better. I spend my days picking apart the media's spin. I know how these people operate. And while I can acknowledge maybe that speaks poorly of my resolve, that's the power of relentless narrative warfare. It wears you down. Even me, someone who very high on their list of irritants are Democrats and progressives. It made me question what I know to be true. But I'm choosing to look at it as a good thing. It forced me to work through it, to go back to America First principles and ask, what does it actually mean to be America First? And it seems like every panel discussion, the JCPOA comes up. But just to clear it up for anybody that's not that familiar with it, that Iran nuke deal didn't prevent one. It scheduled one. It handed Iran over $100 billion in assets. And the plan was just cross our fingers and hope they play nice. Meanwhile, they kept funding terror proxies like Hezbollah and Hamas. The Houthis didn't build drone armies on the profits from their lemonade stand. Then you got Cornel West in here. First of all, I can't stand when anyone uses my faith to justify political points. He said that Trump's precision strike was unconstitutional. Is he kidding? Every modern president, Obama, Bush, Biden, has taken targeted military action without congressional approval. It's called Article 2 authority. And the War Powers Resolution backs that up. Biden bombed Syria. Obama hit Libya. No one cared. But Trump actually succeeds, and suddenly the Constitution is sacred again? Give me a break. Back to it.
You know, we had Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis, a Republican, here last week, and she was saying they're not going to brief us until after this thing is all said and done. And there is something about that, Scott, that, you know, maybe you don't go to a full vote in the Congress, but to wait until you've already taken the action to brief even the Gang of Eight, this is a smaller group of senior leadership in the Congress, about what the intelligence says, I think is pretty extraordinary.
Well, they did call Schumer, and I know they talked to him, and they tried to call Jeffries, who apparently didn't pick up the phone. So I know some calls were made. Look, one of the ways to keep things from leaking is to not tell a bunch of people who leak. And so, you know, I'm sensitive to this.
The Gang of Eight,
this is a pretty sensitive operation. There was a lot of misdirection. There was a lot of stuff going on here.
Is a close hold.
I know, and they
It's
called
generally a
and they
close
called Schumer, and they tried to call Jeffries, and they told the Republicans. And look, we're not going to debate this in an open committee hearing when we're, you know, on a tight time window. You got bombers going one way, bombers going another way. I mean, this thing had to be held airtight, and that's what they did, and it worked perfectly.
Except
so.
that Donald Trump tweeted his way or truthed his way
Yes.
through the whole thing. I mean, we do have to remember
Are you
that
arguing it wasn't a success?
I literally
Well-
did not say that. I'm just saying President Trump spent a lot of time talking through this publicly on social media to the point where they had to have a contingency plan to have B-2s going in opposite directions, just in case they needed to sort of misdirect the Iranians.
But we don't know whether it was a success or not. But you don't make a major judgment like that based on a one-day span.
If every time Iran, because they're going to get close again.
Yeah.
Are we just going to have to bomb them every time?
You know, that's a really interesting question. I think that what you might see, if they continue to try and enrich domestically, you may very well see Israel go after those targets. You may very well see the U.S. have to step in. The reality is this is exactly why we have to make it clear to Iran, no domestic enrichment. You want a civilian nuclear program? You can get your uranium from elsewhere. No domestic enrichment. This is the original sin. JCPOA was the original sin by allowing Iran, a terrorist state, to have domestic enrichment capabilities. That was the mistake by the Obama administration. It was the right thing for President Trump to walk away from
it depends. This is the first time we've ever actually gone this far. In the past, I think they thought, well, you know, Americans aren't strong enough or bold enough to actually come in here and do something about it. We'll talk. They'll send us pallets of cash, whatever. In this case, we sent Operation Midnight Hammer. It's the first time we've gone that far, so maybe it will prove to be a deterrent.
If every time Iran, because they're going to get close again.
Yeah.
Are we just going to have to bomb them every time?
You know, that's a really interesting question. I think that what you might see, if they continue to try and enrich domestically, you may very well see Israel go after those targets. You may very well see the U.S. have to step in. The reality is this is exactly why we have to make it clear to Iran, no domestic enrichment. You want a civilian nuclear program? You can get your uranium from elsewhere. No domestic enrichment. This is the original sin. JCPOA was the original sin by allowing Iran, a terrorist state, to have domestic enrichment capabilities. That was the mistake by the Obama administration. It was the right thing for President Trump to walk away from
it depends. This is the first time we've ever actually gone this far. In the past, I think they thought, well, you know, Americans aren't strong enough or bold enough to actually come in here and do something about it. We'll talk. They'll send us pallets of cash, whatever. In this case, we sent Operation Midnight Hammer. It's the first time we've gone that far, so maybe it will prove to be a deterrent for the future.
You can't bomb
we'll
you
see.
can't bomb your way to
Everyone,
peace, though. And
thanks.
peace
Thank
is
you.
not.
It's subtle, but I want you to notice something about that exchange between Abby Phillip and Scott Jennings. She starts by asking something to the effect of, shouldn't have Trump consulted Congress? Scott answers with facts, and then she immediately pivots. Well, he talked about this publicly on social media, didn't he? Okay, let's put the question on the back burner for a second. Which is it, Abby? Is he being too secretive or too transparent? Just make up your mind. I don't care which way you go. At least pretend to have an opinion or a mind. I mean, Scott answered like most of it was. It wasn't a very good trap that Abby was trying to lay, but he pointed out exactly what we all know. Presidents don't broadcast military plans to a Congress full of leakers, saboteurs, and political enemies, especially not when some of them are actually praying for his failure and the country's. So no, he's not going to put top secret strike intel in a group chat with Chuck Schumer and Adam Schiff. Something really stood out to me about this whole operation. Nothing leaked. No loose lips, no sudden New York Times anonymous official reports 12 hours before the strike. That tells me this operation was tight. Trump trusted the right people, moved quietly, and executed precisely. You know, the kind of leadership we're told he's incapable of. Turns out the only real incompetents are the ones pretending that this wasn't a success. I don't agree with every one of Donald Trump's decisions, and I doubt you two either. But let's not lose the plot here. This wasn't a war. It wasn't reckless. It was a calculated, legal, and effective message to Iran. You're not untouchable. And the CNN clowns and the rest of the media, it's not like they're mad because it failed. They're mad because it worked. So all of us need to continue to be skeptical and ask questions. But don't buy into the left's hysteria. We've come too far to let their nonsense divide us now. Let me know in the comments what you think about this panel discussion between Scott Jennings and the rest of the crazies at CNN. Anyway, that's it for this video. We're coming up on the end of June here. This is the month where I've been asking everyone to make a big push for me. So any of the things you can do for me, like, subscribe, notifications, share, is greatly appreciated. Since I've been asking for your help this June, you have no idea how impactful your support has been towards growing this channel. Thank you so much. Otherwise, as always, I really appreciate the fact that you took a couple minutes out of your day to watch my video. I know your time's valuable. Never forget Jesus loves you. See you guys.